Hello, everybody. Today, we want you to start homeschooling without any excuses. And if you are thinking about homeschooling and are ready to jump over the fence and get started, we want to help you out with that.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, it has never been easier to homeschool than right now. Seriously. And we want you to know before we get started here, like our goal here is to encourage people that are already somewhat interested in homeschooling. We want to help you get off the fence and make the decision and kind of provide ways that this can be possible for you and your family. We're not here to bash public school. Public school has a place and it is necessary for a lot of families, and that's great. But it's not the only way to educate your kids. So that's what we want you to know today going into this live video is we're just here to encourage you with instilling educational freedom in your kids' education.
Yeah, and we want to know, if you don't know anything about Jenny and I, we both went through the K through 12 public school system, our local neighborhood schools, and went through it. So we're not saying that you have to homeschool. We just want you to know that it is an option, and if that's something that interests you, we want to help you do it.
Right.
Okay, so Jenny, I think with obstacle, let's talk about obstacle number 1.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want me to introduce it?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so our first obstacle here is if you require a 2-income household and neither parent can really afford to stay home and teach the kids.
Yeah, so the reality here is that homeschooling does not just happen. It can be hard. We're not here to sugarcoat this for you and say, oh, everybody should homeschool. But we want you to know that it is difficult. Our society has not been set up to make homeschooling the easiest option. But people who have selected homeschooling have had to make certain compromises in their life to make it work. So, choosing a homeschool might mean that your life does not look exactly the same as it does now.
Right. And this is something that Stacey and I have a lot of feelings about because she and I both, if you didn't already know this, we both work full time. Luckily, we work from home, but it still can be tricky for us to fit in homeschool in our daily lives, but we make it happen. We've kind of designed our lives around this because homeschooling is so important to us. And we think it's beneficial for really anyone. So if you're not currently in a situation where one of you can work from home while homeschooling, you can always, if it's possible, consider finding a job that will allow you to work different hours or work from home so that you can reasonably start homeschooling. And like I said, we both work full time and we both homeschool. So it is possible. Like, I really want people to know this because it does sound kind of crazy. Honestly, it does. My kids are with me all day while I'm trying to work, and we've just created boundaries. We've created routine, and it works for us right now. So, also another thing that you should probably think about is creating some sort of monthly budget and seeing maybe if you can cut down on expenses and maybe learn how to live on one income. And we know this is a tall order. It can be a very long process for any family, but we do believe that with the right sacrifices and living intentionally, you could potentially, depending on your situation, there are a lot of factors, but you could make homeschooling happen if one of you needed to stop working. I know it sounds like a crazy idea, maybe, but it's something that could be done potentially if you do look at your budget and your finances and kind of see where there's wiggle room.
Yeah. And what we're trying to point out here is, again, if you are interested in homeschooling and that's what you want, you have to be able to envision that and what's that look like. So we're giving you these tips in order for you to know, oh, there are other people out there that maybe live off of one income and they have adjusted their life. They maybe don't live in a home that has, such a high monthly rent or such a high monthly mortgage. And they've made adjustments in their life so that they can homeschool. So these tips are just things that you can do. Maybe you can't do it right now, but maybe if you have this goal in mind, you can start slowly making adjustments to make this work for you, maybe next school year or the school year after that.
Right, totally. I love that point because it's true. And it is a big adjustment. If you were to cut down into one income, I mean, it's something that my family and I worked forever towards, like many, many years. And because I was staying home at one point. It's a long story. You don't want to hear it right now. But I was staying home because we worked towards living on one income. So it can be done. Another point I do want to make about like the working full time and all that and balancing homeschool with that is timing and scheduling. So homeschool does not have to take as long as public school. That's one of the most important parts I think that some people miss about homeschooling, especially when they first get started. I mean, even Stacey and I struggle with this. It's like, how do we keep lessons short? How do we keep it manageable? So you just have to be mindful. And I've done videos on how I fit homeschool into my daily work life. And it's, it can be challenging, but I have certain routines, and I don't want to call it a routine really or a schedule, but certain habits that we've gotten into that really cut down on the time. So it is totally possible. Also, make sure to seek support from friends or family that maybe can help with the kids, can help support you in that way. Do you have anything else to say about that, Stacey?
No, I think we've covered all of our points here.
Okay.
So I think we should hop right on over to obstacle number 2. So our second obstacle that we have heard people having is that they need their kids to go to their regular neighborhood school so that their kids have socialization. Now, if you do decide to join the homeschool community, you will know that this is probably the number one biggest pet peeve of all homeschoolers, is that, kids need to go to school to be socialized. During your homeschool journey, you're going to find so many other homeschoolers. And nowadays, it's getting more and more popular that they're actually not that hard to find. You can find them everywhere. Wouldn't you agree, Jenny?
Oh, totally. I mean, we're even in California, which doesn't have a massive homeschool population like some other states do. And I mean, there are so many ways to meet up with other homeschoolers here. It's really great. And homeschoolers do tend to kind of stick together. I think a lot of us, I mean, there's all sorts of different homeschoolers. Every family is different, but we do share typically some certain core values. So it's not only easy to meet up with other homeschoolers typically, but it's also, I think, really important.
Yeah. And so again, it can be a lot easier than it used to be to connect with these families, but it's also still going to take time on your part. It can still be difficult, and it's again not the easy situation. The easy situation is to put them down the street in the local public school where they're going to get socialization. Where if homeschooling, you as the teacher or parent are going to have to make those experiences happen for them. Mm-hmm. So one thing to think about is that for homeschool groups, in reality, they really are more closely tied to what your child is going to actually experience in the real world. When your student is in a typical classroom and they are in a specific room or a grade with one teacher and other children that are exactly the same age as they are, that does not replicate the actual socialization that they're going to get when they go out into the real world and they get a job, and they're going to have people that are way older, maybe younger, and they're going to have all sorts of different types of people in the real world. So homeschooling, when you get together with these groups, you've got families that are homeschooling. So you might have high schoolers and first graders at the park together playing and doing activities. And so it really does more closely relate to what they're going to experience in the real world, is with all these different age levels and learning how to work with other types of people.
Yeah. And this is something that I asked people sometimes. And this is something that just dawned on me. I've been like, how often do you hang out with other people born in the same academic year as you? Like, how often? Stacey and I aren't even the same age. Like, so in elementary school, when you're all separated by grade, like she and I wouldn't have even hung out. My husband and I wouldn't have even hung out. There are so many people that I meet on a daily basis that are younger or older or from different walks of life or from a different part of the country or whatever, we're all different. And in the public school system, socialization is one of these things where it's such a strange misconception to me, because in public school, you're not even really supposed to socialize. Like, how many times have we heard, like, sit down, we're not, like, teachers are mad because the class is disruptive or whatever. And they're like, sit down, this isn't the time to socialize. We're not here to socialize. Like, I remember hearing that all the time, right, Stacey?
So true. Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. Most of the time it was like only at lunchtime or on the playground. And these days, that's not even the case always. You really can't socialize as much in public school. So I just think it's interesting that that's the kind of example that people say, because in my opinion, in homeschooling and having the freedom to go out and meet people in everyday life or sign up for whatever extracurriculars we want or can afford, in those experiences, my kids are meeting and dealing with so many different kinds of people all day long. It's really, they're not isolated, and a lot of homeschoolers are not isolated.
Yeah, so true. And going back to the way that socialization works in the public schools, I mean, I think we can all agree, it's not perfect. The public school is not perfect. And you can't expect anything to be perfect, the perfect system. But depending on where you live, the public school might not have the best examples of other children that you want your kids to socialize with, because there's just behaviors that will pop up, and your kid is going to experience those. Or we've all had those times. I have subbed in the school system before, and there are certain kids that need a little extra more attention, and they get it by trying to act out or be loud, and you have to spend extra time with them. And that means your child isn't getting the extra time, but they are maybe seeing the way this kid acts out to get extra attention, and go, oh, maybe that's how I should get attention. So again, every school is going to be different, and there's going to be different scenarios, but are there situations at the public school that maybe you don't want your kids to be introduced to? And that's something to think about as well.
Right. And one more thing to add to that is the difference between negative experiences and interactions in public school as opposed to negative interactions in homeschool or in everyday life it's different, because when you're homeschooling your kids, you're able to see it better, or you're able to address it quicker. If your kids are in school, it's like 1 degree removed from you. So you might not even know what's going on. So we're not trying to say shelter your kids from bad experiences, but you as the parent has a little bit more control over the situation and can address it quicker if you're there kind of firsthand to experience it.
Very, very true. Okay, Jenny. So I think we can hop over to some tips to help with socialization. You want to start with the first one?
Okay. So people are inherently social, and we want to socialize. I think we've learned this over the course of the past 2 years, that we need to socialize. It is essential to our mental health. So you do not need to have your kids in a public school to have them socialize. And we've kind of touched on this already, but it happens everywhere. And this actually ties into our latest video, which is learning happens everywhere. And something we didn't really go over in that video is socialization and interaction happens everywhere. And it really is true. So you don't need to send your kids to public school for them to experience that. What about tip number 2, Stacey?
Yeah, tip number 2 is that, again, like we mentioned earlier, homeschooling is so much more common now. You're more likely to bump into some homeschoolers if you go to your local library, your local park, or any sort of local meetup. And there's even, as our third tip, you can look for local homeschool groups that are near you, even on Facebook. You can go on Facebook and find, insert your city here, homeschool group, and there's probably going to be one. And they will help you find activities, classes, meetups, all of that. So there are plenty of opportunities. Again, it just takes you going and finding it, which might take you a little bit more time. But once you find kind of your little, your tribe of homeschoolers that you really resonate with, it's going to be so much easier the rest of the day.
Right. Okay. Do you think we're ready for obstacle number 3?
I think we are.
Okay, I'll introduce this one because this one's
Perfect.
also, I mean, all of these are near and dear to my heart, but I feel like this one is just it makes me sad. So the third obstacle that some people face is the feeling that they're not qualified to teach their own children. Maybe they didn't go to school for teaching, or maybe they're not super highly educated, or whatever the reason. Some people do feel kind of incapable of being able to educate their children.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know us, or you're just meeting us for the first time, I do have a teaching credential and Jenny does not. And
Mhm.
I've said this in several other videos. I don't think I'm any better of a teacher than she is. We'll chat and she teaches me things all the time. So yes, teachers go to school in order to get their credential. And when they get their credential, the credentialing program is a lot more of the classroom aspect. It's not necessarily teaching you how to teach California history, because you get that kind of through your bachelor's program, and then you will also learn more of that with whatever curriculum that the school you end up working at has. So you will get all of that background knowledge from the curriculum and whatever you had your degree in, but you don't know everything. You really don't. I'm constantly learning new things as I'm going through homeschooling with my own kiddos. And I feel like I'm trying to hit 3 different points at the same time right now. But you can actually learn so much from the curriculum you choose. And so teachers, they learn a lot about classroom management and lesson plans and the teachery stuff, but that same style does not necessarily have to come over to homeschooling.
Yeah, and so I think what you're trying to get at is teaching things like the things that we have to teach every day as homeschoolers. That's not what you're taught when you're becoming a teacher. You're not taught, oh, how do you do long division? Like that's what your education was for when you were a student, and that was like 2 decades ago, you know? So it's not, we're all, I mean, I want to make us all feel empowered that we all can homeschool, but also the truth of the matter is we're all kind of underqualified in our own ways. And there's no one person that is like super qualified in every single aspect of education. There's always going to be gaps. So you don't need to think of, okay, I'm striving for perfection here. I'm striving for my kids to get to know everything. You don't need to have that kind of pressure on yourself. And if that is something that you do have pressure on, like maybe there's a certain subject that you really don't want to teach, or you can't teach for whatever reason, you can always seek the help of maybe a tutor or an outside class, or even join some sort of homeschool co-op. Those are always really good options. And this is something that I've actually thought about a lot lately, because there are certain subjects, science, that I just,
No, not science.
I know Stacey loves science. I have a lot of trouble with it, so I kind of outsource that. I actually watch Homeschool Science Club on YouTube with my kids. They love it. That's another YouTube channel that's great for teaching kids. But anyway, it it's you have to know when to outsource something and when you can teach it yourself. Chances are you can teach it yourself just fine, but if you feel uncomfortable, you can always find free resources to help you.
Yeah, and so jumping into kind of our first tip to help you if you feel like this obstacle applies to you, is the first and foremost thing we want you to know. I mean, our YouTube channel is called Kids Learning for Life. Jenny and I consider ourselves kids learning for life. It is okay for your children to see you learning right alongside them. Like I said, when I'm working on lessons with my kiddos and I don't know something about ancient China when we're learning about it, I tell them, wow, that was really cool. Look, I learned something. And they get to see that I'm still learning things the older I get. And there's always going to be something new to learn. And so that is actually one of our main values here at Kids Learning for Life, is that kids need to learn how to learn so that they can keep learning no matter what situation they're in.
Yeah, this is something I'm super passionate about. So like really quick about me. So I obviously went to the public school system, but I always loved to read. And public school always kind of kept me from being able to read. Like I was constantly not allowed to read during another class that I was in, say math or history or whatever. So anyway, deep down inside of me was this like literature lover. And I feel like it wasn't allowed to come out until more recently. And now I'm reading all these great books to my kids, or even using living books in other subjects like science and history. And I'm learning so much from reading these classic old books with my kids that are teaching real life lessons. And I'm just like, every day I'm just in awe of the things I'm learning, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could have read this when I was a kid, but I never did. So I feel like I'm kind of giving my kids the education I wish I had. And I feel like in a way, a lot of us homeschoolers are doing that. To that same point, I kind of want to stress this next tip, which is teach to your strengths. So this is something that like Stacey and I are very different, right? We have different strengths as far as which subjects we really gravitate towards. Stacey loves science and she loves teaching science. These are just really like basic examples here, but Stacey loves science. She loves teaching science and she's good at that. I feel like I'm better at teaching things like English and literature and Shakespeare, stuff like that, which I'm not saying everyone should teach their kids Shakespeare, but if you know stuff about Shakespeare, or you're passionate about it, or you're even just semi-interested in it, why not dive in with your kids? Or if you know science and you're into doing hands-on activities and you want to get out and do experiments with your kids and teach them all these concepts, go for it. Like if that's what you're into, use those strengths to your homeschool's advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are watching this and you're thinking, I don't have any strengths, I don't know, and you're like, I just don't know what I'm doing. It's okay, because there is a curriculum that can teach you everything you need to know. Jenny and I consider ourselves curriculum nerds. We love looking at new curriculums. There's a curriculum for everything out there. And there's more than just one option. You might send your kid to the local public school and they are getting a very specific textbook, and that is all that their teachers are teaching from. But when you get to homeschool, you have more flexibility in what areas you get to search through ancient history, or what curriculum, or there is so much out there that will, if you don't know it, it will walk you through it step by step so that you can help teach that to your child.
Yeah, something that we're passionate about, which Stacey kind of touched on. We're both curriculum nerds. We've both used, we try not to hop through curriculum very much. I think that's a little jarring for kids sometimes. So I do not recommend that. But the curriculums that we have used, we have done video reviews on basically all of them. And that includes a flip through and like our honest thoughts about how these curriculums are working or not working. So those you can find on our channel. I believe we have a whole curriculum playlist. So if you're looking for something and you want to get firsthand experience, or you want to hear about someone's firsthand experience, that's always available on our channel. And I think those are really helpful when choosing curriculum if you're trying to figure out how you're going to teach certain subjects.
Yes. Jenny, are we ready for our next tip here?
Yeah, so it's our last obstacle that we wanted to bring up to you. And first, I want to mention this really quick. I want to thank everyone on social media that chimed in when I sent it. I posted things like, what are the number one obstacles you faced when deciding to homeschool? Or what have the naysayers in your life told you about homeschooling? So these came directly from our audience, and I really want to thank them because that was super valuable, and it really helped us compile this information. So anyway, obstacle number 4 is homeschooling is expensive. And I do this because it's really not. I mean, I understand that it's, I guess, potentially more expensive than sending your kid to public school, which is supposed to be free. But I can tell you that for almost any curriculum, there is some sort of free or very inexpensive option. And also the thing that people don't realize, I don't know if people realize this or not. I guess I didn't realize this until recently because I've never sent my kids to public school. But kids have to, like, before the school year starts in a traditional public school, you have like a whole supply list that you're supposed to bring and supply. And I'm not saying it's anything crazy, but what I'm saying is it's still technically costing you something. And I'm here to tell you that I have homeschooled on basically no money before. And it is definitely doable. You have to be creative, and sometimes you have to do extra prep work, but it is doable. And you also have to do research because there's a lot of things out there that might not be the best. And it's definitely possible. So I want you to know that if this is a concern of yours.
Yeah, if you are thinking that you just don't have any extra money for curriculum, or if you've looked into curriculums, because there are programs that cost money. You can actually have there are certain homeschool programs that will just teach your kids everything they need to know. They grade your work for you. Like, there are entire programs, and those cost money. But what we're talking about is that if you just want to homeschool your kids at home, again, it's not going to be easy, because you're going to have to be spending some extra time looking up curriculums, finding those free resources, going to all these free websites and putting it together. But it can be done if that is something that is important to you. And there are so many resources available to you.
Yeah.
All right, Jenny, are we ready to give some tips to help out with this?
Yeah. So one thing I really want to list some free or inexpensive resources for people, because this is another, I'm passionate about all these things, but this one I'm really like, there are so many good programs out there that are affordable or free. So one thing that I talk about all the time, if you have seen me on YouTube, you've probably seen me talk about this. Ambleside Online is a free Charlotte Mason curriculum. Now, that doesn't mean that all the books are included. So it's a curriculum based on living books. So you're not teaching out of textbooks. You're using actual books, like literature kind of things. So Ambleside Online provides the schedule and the book list and like the ages, like everything you need to know about scheduling it, but also they provide links to where these books are available for free, because the beautiful thing about it is a lot of the books are available in the free domain. So you can print them off. You can pay a print shop to print them for you, or you can just print them at home yourself. I mean, it's next to nothing. It costs you next to nothing for the vast majority of the books on there. Another program that I personally have used is called MEP. This is for math, and it stands for Math Enhancement Program. It's completely free. It's all online. It actually reminds me a lot of primary mathematics. So that's another like free resource. I know also a complete curriculum. I don't have personal experience with it, but I've heard good things about it, is Easy Peasy Homeschool. That's all a website, and it's a complete curriculum. So it should cover all of your core subjects. And then I think I've already mentioned this today, but for science, for free, he has free videos and free worksheets, is Homeschool Science Club on YouTube. I mean, it has saved me so much this year. I'm so grateful to John Stanton at that channel. He's actually a friend of our show. So go over and check out his channel and tell him we say hi.
Awesome. Yes, I'm so glad you added that in. It's not on our little outline here, everybody. She just went ahead and added more extra stuff in there. Another tip we have for you is to purchase subjects individually. If you do have some money to purchase and you don't, it's not in your budget to go and buy an all-inclusive curriculum, start with the subjects that you need to start with. So maybe like reading and math. Start there, find 2 curriculums, get started with just that. And then let the science, like we said, go on YouTube, find some science and history videos, talk about them, but, ease yourself into it. And then that way, if you figure out that the reading curriculum you selected isn't exactly what you wanted, you can find the right one before adding, you don't want to buy 4 different curriculums for English, math, science, and history and find out you don't like any of them.
Well, and also another point on this, and I think for a lot of us, budget, right? So like we tend to buy in bulk or like all encompassing things, right? But typically these like complete curriculums are super expensive, and you don't know if it's going to work, unless you have experience with it. So I would never suggest starting with one of these really big complete box curriculums. You kind of want to like dip your toe in first. And like Stacey said, like do each subject individually, because there's like inexpensive options for each subject. So that's a really good tip. Another tip is checking out local book sales. Thrift books is a really great resource, and most people don't think about it for homeschool, but I've used it a lot for mine. Getting stuff for Ambleside Online, the book list, or even just like actual curriculum you can get from thrift books. Check out the library. You can check out items from the library. That's a really good resource, obviously. And my library even has really great book sales. So I've been able to find things there too. Or Another one of my favorite ways to get curriculum for really cheap or free is to connect with other homeschoolers that are selling or giving away used curriculum. I love doing that.
Yeah, and our last tip for you is going to just be create your own curriculum with free resources. Again, you just have to kind of look a little bit harder and a little bit deeper online, but you can find things for free and you can homeschool just using that and using your local library to go check out some books. So if that is the stage in your homeschool life, then that's where you're at. And just one quick little thing before we start wrapping up is your homeschool life, your homeschool journey so far. I mean, I've been homeschooling for about 4 years, and it does not look the same now as when I started. And it doesn't even look the same now as what I envisioned when I started. Your homeschool journey is going to shift and change. So it's okay if you're starting out and taking some baby steps when you don't think you're quite ready to fully have it all together. Take a few baby steps, and then you're going to learn along the way. And like I said, it might not even look like what you originally envisioned, but I think you're really going to like it.
Yeah. So let's start to wrap it up. I guess what we want to kind of give you some really big benefits for homeschooling, because this is something we really want to hammer home for you. Homeschooling is important to us because we can instill our values, not the state's, into our children. So we are taking an active role in teaching our kids the morals and beliefs that we want them to have. And this gives you a lot of freedom, educational freedom, to decide how you're going to teach your kids.
Yeah. And another little bit of encouragement that maybe this will help you is people are afraid to take their kids out of school and start homeschooling. And I mean, really, if you think about it, what is the downside? If you take them out and you start homeschooling and you decide you don't like it, your school is going to take them back with open arms and say, hello, welcome back. They're not going to deny them coming back. So try it. There's really, the worst thing that can happen is that you put them right back where they were. And there you go. I mean, unless you're having major issues with the school system and that's why you're thinking about pulling them out, then you probably don't want to put them back. But if you're, if they're doing fine in that system, but you still think you want to do homeschool, try it. If you don't like it, go back.
And one thing I tell all brand new homeschoolers is please check HSLDA.org for how to homeschool legally in your state. And I also highly recommend becoming a member. I think it's less than $15 a month, and you get a lot of legal protection from them, and you get so many resources from them. I remember they have forms for how to withdraw from your current public school. They have forms for like if you're in a state where you need to submit like a portfolio or assessment testing or something like that to your state. They have templates for that, and that's all available if you become a member. And to me, it was a very good price for what you get, because you get so much support from them. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I'm so impressed with them because I became a member with them. I had a specific question about how to like remove my kids from the school and do it independently. And they answered right away. They were able to answer my question. And then even like a few months later, they just called to check on me. Like, they really do know how to take care of all their homeschool families. So check out HSLDA for any information you need about how to homeschool legally.
Yes. And lastly, since Jenny and I are from California, we do know that California actually has homeschool charters. So if you are also from California, that is another option that you possibly have, where they give you extra teacher support and even can help you with some of those curriculum purchases. So that is another thing that you can check out.
Right. And then something you can do if you just want some one-on-one help is Stacey and I actually offer homeschool consultations to families looking for help. And we've helped a lot of different families that are interested in different kinds of homeschooling methods, different curriculum. Like, everyone has different goals. So we've worked with a lot of different families, and this is something we're passionate about. We're curriculum nerds. So we are here to help. So we actually have a special deal going. Stacey, do you want to tell our audience about it?
Yeah, so we actually have a promo code that, so if you go to our website, www.kidslearningforlife.com, and click on Homeschool Consultations, and if you do book a consultation, you can use the promo code newbie20 for $20 off of your consultation. So that will be available until the end of 2021, so all the way until December. So if you're watching this video not live, but a little bit later, or if you watch this and you're not sure, but then when you do decide that maybe you want to try homeschooling, you can still have that code there. So we're making it extra long because we know that this is just something that people might really want access to and we want to help. So we've got this code there for you.
Yeah, we don't usually have an offer last this long. So it's a really good deal. And we just love to connect with homeschool families. And sometimes you just need that one-on-one help. I mean, you can seek resources elsewhere, but we love to help people one-on-one because we can really hear their entire story. And also, I just want to mention this really quick. With Homeschool Consultation with us, you actually do get a month-long email access to us. So you can email us for a month after your consultation and, ask us any of those questions that you may have forgotten to mention in our video call or our phone call or however we choose to meet. So that's always a really beneficial part to it. And I think it can be really helpful. So we're here to help you. I think that's what we want you to know. We're here to help you. We're here to encourage you and cheer you on because we truly believe that with living intentionally, making certain sacrifices, anyone can homeschool. And we also want you to know it's not necessarily the easiest choice. You're not going to have as much of your alone time. You're going to be with your kids all the time. You're going to be lesson planning or teaching kids late if other stuff came up, but it is so rewarding. And to me, it is so important. And it's honestly my favorite thing to do. I love homeschooling. And I think that anyone can develop a sort of passion for this. I'm not a teacher, but I love teaching my kids and being with my kids. And it's just so fun. And we just want everyone else to know that it is a possibility.
Yes. So if you guys have any questions for us, you can leave them in the comments below. You can email us at kidslearningforlife@gmail.com. And if you have any other questions, feel free to check out our YouTube channel and see if we've made tons of videos that answer some common questions. So check those out as well. And until then, I guess, Jenny, it's time for us to say, see you next time.